all lies will be exposed.
Hello, everyone. Cheers and salutations. First of all, I want to make a full apology, not only to my guests, but to supporters and all of my viewers and subscribers. Last night, I prepped up so that I can have this live stream and an exclusive interview with candidate Larry Sharpe. Now, he's run as a libertarian and as an independent in New York State in various races. But what is interesting is that somehow at this point in time, Rumble is not cooperating with this live stream. So we are currently live only on YouTube, X, and Kick. I will be uploading this recording on Rumble so that Larry Sharpe's team can have it at its disposal right away. Again, all of this was set and ready. My internet set and ready. Now, this isn't the first time my channel has been hit with many things, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. There's been many examples where, again, I have a high-profile guest coming onto my show or doing something of that nature, and that stuff has been right now on the rise. But other content creators are dealing with that. But nonetheless, a show must go on, and a promise is a promise. So joining me now for this wonderful sit-down, everyone, please give your full attention to longtime contributor, good friend, commentator, as well as independent libertarian candidate, Larry Sharpe. Larry, thank you so much for your time, patience, and understanding, and you got one hell of a team.
We do what we must, my friend. We do what we must. That's how it works. We do get it done. I appreciate it. Good morning over there in Chi-Town.
Yes, exactly. It's a beautiful morning, and good morning to you in the great state of New York. We might have many differences, but we do know that Chicago-style pizza is superior in every which way and form.
Well, there's only we agree on so many things, except that. That's it. Except that. No, you look. I know you enjoy your lasagna. I just wish you wouldn't call it pizza. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. But nonetheless, everyone, if you can, please share the YouTube link, Kick link, and X. Rumble will be uploaded via private, so it will be done. I will have to figure out what's going on with Rumble because usually they're more on point. But that's an investigation that I have to take care of later. But nonetheless, Larry, you have made a huge announcement. I know you were recently on Kim Iverson's show.
True.
As well as I want to give a shout out to your good friend Michael Voss. We've been on your show as well for many outstanding and engaging power panels. But you're running for governor in the great state of New York as a libertarian candidate, and this is for the 2026 midterm election cycle. So, for everyone that's tuning in and watching, what is the significance? What in part for this campaign has decided, or you have decided to actively get involved and running for this key position right now during this point in time?
So let me grab a couple things. Not just as a libertarian, I am, but also as a We the People Party candidate. We the People Party, for those who don't know, is RFK Jr.'s party. So I'm in New York State. We have what's called fusion voting. What that means is we can be listed twice on the ballot, literally listed twice, and all the votes count. It's very common for the Democrat in my state to be listed also on the Working Families Party, and for the Republican to also be listed on the Conservative Party. So I will be listed under Libertarian Party and We the People Party. Both parties give me two lines just like them. So just makes things better. Now, why does that matter? New York State last year was the only state in the entire union that did not have at least one independent candidate on the ballot for president. Every other state had at least one. Some had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and somehow the world didn't end. So choice didn't destroy their states, and no choice is destroying mine. Right. Not just that. In 2022, it was the first time in over 80 years where we did not have a independent governor candidate on the ballot because they sued me off the ballot in 2022.
That's so
yes, correct. So the problem is what matters is I'm the only guy right now in New York State who is prepared to take on the punishment that it takes to actually make an independent candidate work here in New York State. So that's the number one piece, that we have an opportunity to bring independent parties back, because without it, we're going to fall into a one-party state. The one-party state piece that someone out there may or may not care about. Once you have a one-party state, it's North Korea. I mean, it's authoritarianism.
Or it's Illinois, the Illinois Democrat machine.
Same thing. Yes, with the same problem, right? And look, I'll go the opposite way. I won't just punish Democrats. I'll also punish Republicans too. Look at Nebraska. Look at Utah. For people who don't know, Utah and Nebraska last Senate race did not run a candidate. The Democrats didn't run a candidate for the U.S. Senate, not for the state Senate. No, they didn't bother because it's 4-1 Republican to Democrat, and there's no chance for Democrats to win in those two states. New York State's becoming that. In New York State, a Republican has not won a statewide election, whether that's AG, governor, whatever, senator, in 23 years. Same thing's happening here. And while you might go, well, that's good because I like Republicans, or that's good because I like Democrats. Here's the problem. If you are a Democrat in New York State, you still don't get what you want because the elites always win. The Democrats aren't actually winning. The elites are winning. In Nebraska, the Republicans aren't actually winning. The elites are winning. So this makes it to where just the elites win. In New York State now, only the aristocracy can even run for office. So yeah, it makes it crazy. So this is a big piece. I hope that was clear.
No, it's very clear, and I do want to address the fact that, and you know what, I might as well just go ahead and rip this Band-Aid off. Let's go ahead and look at the similarities between New York and Illinois. And when it comes down to the pizza wars, no. I want to lighten up here, but no, this is the real frightening fact that both our states are extraordinarily and very hyperactively engaged in demolishing third-party votes.
Correct.
Greens, libertarians, independents, socialists, non-affiliate, however which way you want to wing it, no matter what position, be it county, city, township, state, and even
everywhere.
federal, third parties have to go through the gauntlet, and it's a miracle that third parties can even get on the ballot. Now, for 2026, what are some of the challenges that you and your campaign are going to have to face off against? Because it's abundantly clear, very similar to Illinois. Why do I hear the phrase and signal bell or the signal call of lawsuits, legalities, judges, court dates?
Yes,
And it's something
absolutely.
I hate. I hate it in more ways than one. So what do you have to face off
So
against?
let me bring up two pieces if I could. The first one is, if you remember back in New York City, this was a while ago, there was a guy named Jimmy McMillan. Jimmy McMillan, he ran the party called the Rent is Too Damn High Party. That was the name of his party.
And he's
Remember
a hero.
that guy?
And he's a hero.
Yes, 100%. Now, why does that matter? Because when you have independent parties like that, people have a way of talking. They have a way of saying, they have a way of complaining, that they have a way of petitioning their government. Because Jimmy would get on the debate stage, and he was never going to be mayor, and he knew he wasn't going to be mayor. He knew he wasn't going to win a city council race. But every time Jimmy was on the debate stage, you had to talk about the rent, because Jimmy was going to make sure you were going to talk about the rent, and you couldn't get around it, and you had to talk about them. And that is what matters more than anything. That's why independent parties matter. Look, people can like or hate RFK Jr. Doesn't matter. Before RFK Jr. jumped on the Trump train, Trump didn't talk about medicine or food or nothing. Didn't exist. All of a sudden, he sees, oh my God, there's 3 million votes, 4 million votes for RFK Jr. I want those votes. All of a sudden, Trump's got he's Maha, make America healthy again all of a sudden, out of nowhere. Oh my God, where'd that come from? Now, if you're happy about that, good for you. If you're not happy, get your guy. Get your Rent is Too Damn High guy. Get your Maha guy. Get your whatever guy that you want, and then get that person out there in third parties moving the message the way you want that to happen. That's the most important piece there. So that's piece number one. So why can't that be done? They have gone out of the way to destroy it. You are correct. Back in the day when I got in the ballot in 2018, you had to get 15,000 signatures across New York State. Not a crazy number. That's difficult, but not crazy. It can be done, because they also gave us 8 weeks in the summer, which is 8 weeks is more time. And it was in the summer when there were things like, when there are things like fairs and such, where you can go out and find people to do it, right? Great. They decided to change that. And they changed that literally during the COVID lockdowns. And when they changed, they tripled it. They went from 15 to 45, 15,000 to 45,000. And they moved it into a time in New York State where there's still snowstorms, into April. So you might go, Larry, is 45,000 that much for a state of 18 million people? The number isn't the issue. The number is the issue. The issue is it must be done within some arbitrary 6-week window when there's snowstorms in New York State. If you just said, hey, get 45,000 signatures and do it over the course of 6 months, good luck. Makes total sense, not crazy. But I'll go one step further. Only independent parties have to do it.
Right.
If you're a Democrat, Republican, you just get on. So it's not even fair. Like, not if the Democrat, Republican are going to do it, at least it will be fair. They don't. That's the worst part. They don't do it. And they need to be, because, and here's the worst part, they actually couldn't. Lee Zeldin tried to do it to get an independent line in 2022. He couldn't do it. He was the sitting congressman, and at the time, he was the Republican candidate for governor, and he couldn't do it. Literally impossible. No one can do it, which is why all of a sudden, no one gets on anymore. So they've made it to where no one else can get on. So what will I have to do? I have to do that. I've got to get 45,000 signatures in that 6-week period. This is why I'm starting so early. This is why I'm raising money early. That's why it matters. Yes, because there's no other way of doing it. I will have to raise at least $250,000 to get on each line. Now, the advantage of this is the RFK team already got RFK 145,000 signatures last year when they ran for him. And of course, still thrown off the ballot. Because here's the last part that's crazy. Their remedy for any error is not on the ballot. Any error. Doesn't matter. RFK Jr.'s address was wrong. Oh, they thought it was. It wasn't, but they said it was wrong. Off the ballot. Imagine, Kit, you're applying for your driver's license and you make an error on your address. And they go, oh, you can't drive for 4 years now. What? That's what they basically do. And not just that, they will look at every single signature, every one of those, every signature, and say, oh, if anything is wrong, doesn't count. And here's the worst one. Anyone who even doesn't live in New York City knows that Brooklyn is a borough of New York City. Of course, we all know that. Brooklyn is a borough of New York City. And if you have an address, it's so-and-so, Brooklyn, New York. But officially, the name of the county is not Brooklyn. The name of the county officially is Kings County. If you don't live in Brooklyn, you may not know. Yes, most people don't know that. That's the official name of the county.
We're getting an education here, folks.
There we go. And if you don't put Kings County in your county when you sign, that is an invalid signature. That is how New York State sees it. That's how bad it is.
All right. So now it's very clear that you have this challenge. So I've always said to people, especially the third party candidates, like the best time to start is at least before the election year, so that people see your name, so that people can follow you and support you on social media. So now comes the big challenge, or is it the big question? What's happening in New York State? Because right now, in the aftermath of the Trump election in 2024, it's very clear that Democrats, especially one Democrat Governor Hochul, seems to be struggling to maintain her relevancy and power within your state. And many people are upset with her policies and lack of action. So what's exactly happening on the ground? What are the main issues that are impacting the people who live in New York State? Because New York State just isn't New York City. I mean, it's
correct.
There's a wide range of people
who
live in that state who have different points of view and perspectives, but it's clear that there is some trouble brewing in New York State.
Absolutely. And if you are Governor Hochul, the biggest issue is Trump is bad. That's the biggest issue. If you're Governor Hochul, that's all that matters. Trump is bad. That's all. If you're a Republican in my state, what do you get? The socialist Mamdani. That's all they care about. But in reality, there are 4 pieces in New York State where people are suffering. And I bring them up in 4 separate issues: affordability, opportunity, safety, and liberty. Those are the 4 pieces you've got to touch in New York State to keep people here. Orange man bad is true. Barnes is correct. Yes. That's the most important thing. But more importantly here is these 4 pieces will keep New Yorkers from leaving. Our biggest issue in New York is we're losing 300,000 people every single year. You've got to get them to stay. Yes, it's destroying us. In fact, we took in... Go ahead.
Illinois has that problem too. Continue on.
Yes, we keep losing bodies. In fact, the IRS says we lose $20 billion per year due to migration. Just due to migration. Wow. It's insane. We are losing people left and right. All right, so let me cover 4 of those if I could. The first one I think I'm going to bring up, because it's probably the biggest one in the room, is liberty. Liberty is a big chunk when it comes to medical freedom, when it comes to lockdowns. So the first piece I want to bring up, which is kind of controversial for many, but I don't care. I think it's a big deal. I want to propose a constitutional amendment to New York State to ban lockdowns no matter what. No lockdowns. Now, why do I say constitutional amendment? Because if you just make a law, the governor will go, it's an emergency, and whatever that is, and ignore the law. And my assembly will go, okay, because that's what my assembly does. So that's what will happen. And they'll lock it down anyway. The law will be useless. You have to make it a constitutional amendment. That's a challenge. That will take at least 2 years. But we can do it. And the reason why you focus on the lockdowns first is the lockdowns is how they got everything else done. The mandates come from lockdown. The fear comes from lockdown. Everything comes from the lockdown. Once the lockdowns are ended, that changes everything. So you want to end the lockdowns, and you have to make sure you do it based upon the First Amendment. Most people think of the First Amendment and say, oh, First Amendment, well, that's freedom of speech. True. Also freedom of religion, freedom to assemble, freedom of the press, freedom to petition your government. It's all those freedoms. And we want to make sure that we get them all together in one amendment so that people actually recognize that in New York State, I don't want the Bill of Rights to be the Bill of Suggestions. And that's what it is now. So yes, everyone's going to Florida. That's true. They're all leaving. Yes,
they're all leaving.
Absolutely.
But the whole deal is right now is to challenge the system and break it apart. So you talked about constitutional amendment, and we can't talk about constitutional amendment without bringing up good friend of the show, Roger Meadows, who actually gave 2 super chats here. Roger Meadows, if you don't know, is one of the dauntless few. He frequents not only the wonderful Sabbath Sab show, but also Larry Sharpe show, and of course he's a regular here at Hard Lens Media. So first of all, Roger Meadows gave a correction. Jimmy Mack ran for governor in 2010. Not mayor, Larry. So there you go.
Sorry, my mistake.
And then, of course, Kings County, Brooklyn, Richmond County, New York County man. So I'm
Yes,
not. I'm not,
Staten Island is
Staten
actually
Island.
called Richmond County. People don't know that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I did not know
Yes.
that. We're
And
getting,
Manhattan is actually called New York County. That's what he's bringing up. That people don't know that the actual official names of the counties are not what they're called. And if you don't put that down, your ballot is, your signature is irrelevant.
right. So and here's the thing: you have actually for a long time, I think it's fair enough to say, Roger Meadows and you had a back and forth about citizen ballot initiatives to where,
True.
dare I say it, I think he changed your mind. And you've warmed up to the idea of citizen ballot initiative. So will that be on your policy because, or at least to turn New York State perhaps into a citizen ballot initiative state? And if so, what exactly is the process of doing that? Or more importantly, how can you warm that up to other New Yorkers who would embrace that idea? Because there's only a handful of states, and surprisingly, Illinois is one of them, that in which citizens can have, citizen ballot initiatives to circumvent around their politicians and in turn get policies that they want.
Yes. The problem, of course, is if you look at New York State, we have an aristocracy here that runs everything, of course, right? We officially do have ballot initiatives in New York State. They're just not from the citizens. We have ballot initiatives that the assembly can decide to put on when they want. And what that means is the assembly says, wait a minute, I don't want responsibility for this because it might go bad. I'll put this out onto the people. Then when they vote for it, I can blame them as being stupid. That's why they put it on the ballot, to make sure they don't have any responsibility. That's it. We want to make it that where citizens can actually make ballot initiatives. Now, Roger wants to go all out and go amendments to the Constitution. I'm not sold on that one yet, but I'm definitely sold on repealing laws and making laws for sure. I'm iffy on that piece. So I do want to get to that. How do we do that? Same idea. It will take probably 2 years, but I do want to focus on that the first year and get that done within 2. Why would I want to do that? Because right now we have a single party system, and the only way to get around it to get something that we want to get done is through that. And what I like about citizen ballot initiatives, what I really like about it is it allows for single issue coalitions. And that's what that's the number one reason why I'm sold on it. Because right now, if I'm a Republican, I can't talk Democrats because I lose my seat. If I'm a Democrat, I can't talk the Republicans, I lose my seat. Either way, I can't talk either way because I lose my seat. But once you have citizens ballot initiatives, groups of people of any partisan get together to move something forward. Citizen ballot initiatives increase the ideas of single issue. Like everybody wants whatever. I know he wants Medicare for all. Everybody wants Medicare for all. We can push that one single issue regardless of your race. Everybody wants better, in my opinion, everybody wants to actually support the Second Amendment. Well, great. You can do it, right? You can do the single issue thing that you want and push it regardless of what the establishment wants. So I'm totally okay with it. In the past, I was worried about it. You're right. Now I'm not concerned. I think it's a good idea. We could do it. I'll add one more piece that Roger had brought up, and the idea of allowing for public banks. The issue is I want to create a New York State social trust, which is basically a sovereign fund for New York State. It's the only way we can pay for the things that we want to pay for without destroying our tax base, right? Over 1/3 of New York State's budget comes from the federal government. Most of that's debt. So we're just making more and more debt. New York State's at least $400 billion in debt when it comes to all of our excesses that we owe, our unfunded mandates. It's insane how much debt we're in. We got to change that in some way, shape, or form. One of the ways we can do that is through a sovereign fund, which is the New York State Social Trust. In addition to that, why can't we use that same money or that same support structure to actually allow local people to create public banks locally? Why can't I have a public bank in a county? Allowing people to either build infrastructure, support small businesses, do things that make sense with that local community. It's basically co-op banking, credit unions for local people. Right. I want localism to the best of my ability. That's not easy in a state that's like New York, that's heavily centralized. But the more we can begin to decentralize, the more we can start to actually have localism, the better. The more local people keep their money in their counties, in their towns, the more people support each other, the better. The more you add government, the more you remove community. And we learned during the lockdowns, community in New York State's broken. We've got to fix it. I think that's one way we can do it.
Well, there's another thing too to bring up, especially when we were talking about the lockdowns and what it's done to people's psyches, and that is, it's also caused them to lose trust not only in our leaders and our politicians, but many people have tuned out. And the consequences is that once people become jaded to politics, I mean, in Chicago, people say, well, you guys voted what you wanted. No, it's been beaten out of us. 80% of the city, at least, That's a reasonable number. Didn't vote in the 2023 city election, and same thing too. The numbers keep on getting lower and lower of voter turnout. Voters not engaging in local politics is a huge deal, and running for governor is, while it is a statewide issue, it's a local issue, but people need to be involved in it. Getting your message out there as a third party and independent, let's be clear, you also have to deal with something that really hits close home to me, and that is online suppression, censorship, and media blackout. And one thing that needs to be done is you got to be on the ballot. You got to be on the debate stage. Now, we talked about getting on the ballot, but also being on the debate stage needs to happen too. And now more than ever, people need to see another perspective, another voice. With the media in New York State, how are you going to be dealing with that? Because Illinois has its own system to making sure that third parties can't get on the debate stage. And I believe in 2022, there was an independent candidate who was running in Virginia with the Liberty Party, not Libertarian Party, but Liberty Party. And she was forcibly removed from the area, even though she showed up, but they would not let her on the stage to debate. How are you going to at least try and get on there? What kind of hurdles do you have to face off against? And are you facing off against a media and online censorship?
Yep. There's several pieces. The censorship piece, as you know, I got hit hard, but not as hard as you did. But I got hit hard after the lockdowns too, because I was the one saying, look, mandates are wrong. The second I said mandates are wrong, I was shadow banned horribly, like there was no tomorrow. Devastated to the point where everything that I did online was cut by 90% overnight. It was an embarrassment. So yes, I'm still shadow banned. I'm better now, but I mean, it was terrible. So yes, of course I have that. But here's the thing that I've recognized, and sadly, I learned this during my first run. It's all about cash. I wish it wasn't. It's all about cash, because in reality, it's all about popularity. Now, popularity comes from cash, which I was unsure how bad that was. Like, I knew it existed. I had no idea how bad it was. I'll give you an example. Why am I not in the polls? Right? I'm now in polls. But back then I was like, why am I not in the polls? And we actually called the polling company. Why are you not putting me in polls? Literally, at the time I was a libertarian candidate. I was on the ballot. I had raised $500,000. Well, I'm not in the polls. And they went very forward. You don't buy the poll. What? You don't buy the poll. Buy the poll and you're in the poll. So that's how it works. You have to be able to buy polls. So you have to have polling companies that will take your money so that they can buy the poll. That was the important piece, right? So we have to make sure that we're able to have enough money to buy the polls. You buy a couple of polls, you're in polling, and when you're in the polls, now they have to start to carry you, because now being in polls makes you be in polls. Like once you're in it, now you have to be in it, because at one point people go, this is not a valid poll. Where's this other guy? So that's step one. But step two, well, why aren't you on the press? To your point, you have to buy ads. If you buy ads, then they'll put you in the polls. How do I know that? We literally did this. They wouldn't put me in the polls, and I asked how much is a poll? $40,000.
$40,000 to be on the poll.
One poll. And I'm like, I only raised $500,000. Oh my God. Right? How am I going to do that? Well, now, of course, I know that. So in 2022, I got a PAC to help me out. And the PACs can then, of course, begin to buy polls for you and such. And that's how it works, by the way. PACs very often buy polls. And the PAC will be named, like if Kit, you run for governor, they'll have a PAC called.
Please don't put that evil on me. People have been asking me to run for governor, and
I know I'm punishing you already. I'm punishing you already. So when we make the PAC that supports you, it'll be called the Chicago Pizza's Awesome PAC. That's what it'll be called, right?
I like it.
So then what? So it won't be that, oh, Kit bought the poll. It'll be Chicago Pizza's Awesome sponsors this poll. Oh, okay. That must be something neutral, I guess. But no, it's blatantly supporting you. That's how that actually works. So you have to have PACs to make that work. Now, when you have that happen, now all of a sudden you can be in polls. But something else, the PAC decides that it wants to buy ads for you. So now the PAC goes onto your local station and buys, PACs, but now ads. But the PAC, sadly, cannot coordinate with you. So, well, I can't coordinate with Kit, but he's running for governor. So how do I run an ad that supports Kit? Only one way. I have to attack his people. So I run negative ads, because otherwise I'm coordinating. So all I do is go, Governor Pritzker's a bad guy. Governor Pritzker's bad. So you should vote for Kit because Pritzker's bad. That's the ad I do. I do that, and I drop like 20 grand on a station. And then when the guy calls me back and says, hey, can you do another 20 grand? And I go, how come Kit's not on your show? He goes, all right, hold on, I'll get him on. So then Kit goes in the morning show, Kit goes in the show, and then I give him another 20 grand. That's the
Right.
pay to play, how that works in ads. So it's all pay to play. Ads are, polls are. But the average person just goes, oh, I saw Kit on the morning show. He must be real. Oh, I saw an ad with Kit in it. Kit must be real. So the average person thinks you're real naturally when it's all because of cash. I just give you some of that background so you know. I say that because now I know how the game is played, so now I can play it.
Yeah, so in other words, it's like the infamous line from Tulsa King season 1, cash is king. That's such a
Correct
great series. Such a great series. And I'm glad there's a season 3 happening now. Roger Meadows, don't give me any spoilers about that. But now let's look at something else here too, because it's very clear that, you know, and while it's not a governor's race, New York City is a major metropolitan city. It is an economic center, a cultural center. Some would call it a spiritual center. It is America, all right? And look, I'm being nice here to say some nice things about New York City. I got some good friends. Larry, you're one of them. Shout out to Michael as well. Shout out to Do Dissidents. And, of course, shout out to good friend Jose Vega as well, who's running as an independent.
Yep.
You know, there is the race for New York mayor. And I think now more than ever, people want to see a challenge. And Zoran Mandani, for example, really upended everything and really put Cuomo in his place. And it looks like it's going to be, once again, a rematch, a total slug match between Zoran Mandani, the Democrat nominee, and Chris Cuomo, or not Chris Cuomo.
Not Chris.
Andrew, sorry about that.
Yep.
Andrew Cuomo, the independent.
Correct. Yes.
Independent. And you know, we're seeing voter engagement, we're seeing people, and I have my own perspectives and wariness of Mandani. That does not mean I like Cuomo, because no, New York State. How do you feel about Cuomo as governor?
Yeah,
sure,
look, we have no good
ahead.
answers here in New York. We have no good answers in New York State. We have the, I guess, less than horrible. There's no good answers. There's no good answers. Look, the reality of this is one of the reasons why an independent has to run in New York State. Mm-hmm. All right. When New York people, this is what Republicans will tell you. This is our year. What? Yeah, this is our year in New York State. This time we're going to win, and we're going to win because Hochul's so bad. That's why we're going to win. That's what they would tell you. They're lying, and they know they're lying. They just want to raise money. They don't care. The Republican Party in New York State has decided all that matters is grifting. They're never going to win. They know they're not going to win. Doesn't matter. Let's just raise money until eventually New York State becomes the opposite of Nebraska, and the Republicans stop running statewide candidates, which will happen eventually. New York State's 3-1 Democrat to Republican. New York City 6-1 Democrat to Republican. So eventually it'll just go away. So New York State will become independent before it will go red. My example is when New York City knows the system isn't working. The people know that. They're aware of that completely. So then people say, well, great, then they'll vote for the Republican, right? No, New Yorkers hate Republicans, right? They hate Republicans, and they hate Trump. It's just true. You see it in the polls everywhere. Now, if you're a Republican in New York State, you like Trump. New York State Republicans like Trump. That's true. But New York State Republicans are less even than New York State independents. There are less Republicans in New York State than there are independents. The problem is if you hang around Republicans, you think, oh, everyone's Republican. No, it's just not true. In fact, New York is so blue. If you remove New York City from New York State's still blue. Correct. Yes.
That's a pretty bold statement, because an argument, and this has been done where people have tried to make Chicago into its own state, which I don't think so, because if it does, that leads to whole other problems, and not good, because I don't want to see that happen. But if you remove Chicago, Illinois will be a little bit of a red and a little bit of a blue state. It'll be a little bit of a mixture. You won't have the power and machine there. But as governors or a potential candidate, because again, we cannot predict how the future works out, but there's a scenario in which, hey, Larry Sharpe wins. You got to deal with Mandani and all of the politics in New York City. And New York City, while it's not the capital of the state, it does have a lot of push and pull that every state politician has to acknowledge, including governors. What is your policy towards really rebuilding New York? Because New York right now is, as a major, and again, all of New York has its problems, from small towns to medium-sized towns, but let's talk about this major metropolitan city, the crown jewel. What would be some of your policies to at least help out working class citizens in New York State, because that city is going through the same troubles my city's going through. Affordable living.
Let me finish that point, because Julia brings up that I thought that Lee Zeldin won all the counties last election. That's true, but the counties don't have the population. It isn't just New York City. What people don't realize is it's also our other cities are all deep blue. Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Ithaca, Albany. These are all deep blue cities. So even if you leave New York City, there's still all the rest of our cities across the state that are all deep blue. And you look at some place like, say, Lewis County as an example. Lewis County, he won, obviously Lee Zeldin won Lewis County. Lewis County is about 30,000 people in it, the entire county, 30,000. There's more people in my neighborhood in Queens than the entire county of Lewis County, right? And that's, remember, there are counties. Hamilton County is New York State's smallest county, 5,000 people. There are more people on my block than there are in all of Hamilton County. So yes, they can win the counties, but I mean, if you count all of the rural counties all mixed together, they don't equal even half of New York City. So while yes, counties are being won, but the counties don't have many people. The average county in New York State maybe has 100,000 people in it. The average county, right? New York City has 8 million. There's no way they can match. So that's the big difference. So she is correct, but the bodies simply aren't there. And that's the piece to remember. So the next piece I want to move on to is when New York City people got upset with the system, they didn't vote Republican or independent. They went further left. Wow. That's where they went. And Mamdani is further left. Absolutely. Then Cuomo's a Cuomoist. He'd be Republican tomorrow. If he could win.
I'm overall surprised of his ability to actually make it that far in the primary, knowing how a lot of people, including yourself, were very vocal about his governorship, and especially what happened during his policies of the 2020 year with COVID lockdowns.
Absolutely. But the reality of it is he absolutely has charisma. I don't like the guy at all. There's no, but I still have eyes I can see. He's got charisma. That's true. He plays his funny, I'm the cool Italian guy. He plays that game and people eat it up. So he does like that. So you asked about how do I fix things in New York City? All right. I'm going to touch the affordability piece I mentioned before. One of the biggest issues we have in New York City is absolutely thank you. When people have the choice between a good idea and a bad idea, they will take the bad idea because it's better than no idea. Mm-hmm. When you're in trouble and someone puts their hand out, you grab that hand. You don't care. I completely agree. And yes, when you run KIT, it will be Gator Pack. That's true. It will be Gator Pack.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Actually, a little side note, earlier this year, the Illinois Green Party did ask me, hey, KIT, would you consider running for governor? Now, due to many personal and other reasons, I said, no, thank you for that opportunity. But nonetheless, it's very clear after getting this education about what's happening or what would you have to do to run for New York governor. I mean, it's very clear, but getting to the point of working class citizens and the ability to survive in a major metropolitan city, it's costing more than just an arm and a leg. It's costing 2 whole bodies now at this point.
So let me grab, I think one of the most important ones is the MTA. There's many of them, but I think one of them is the MTA. So let me bring that piece up. I just did, by the way, if you guys care, if anyone actually cares, I just did 3-hour policy-thon yesterday. If you want to listen to some of my policies to fix New York State, if you're a policy geek, if you are, check out my Larry Sharpe YouTube page. Put in 3 hours. I did a 3-hour policy-thon just yesterday. 3 years ago, I did an 8-hour policy-thon talking about how I can fix New York State. And it's 8 hours straight, no bathroom break, no food break, 8 hours straight going through ways I can fix. And that one, by the way, is time-stamped. So for any of you guys who actually are policy wonks, please feel free to go back, time-stamped, enjoy. For what we're talking about now, I'll go back to the MTA. The MTA is a big deal in New York State. It's a huge boondoggle. It takes a lot of money, and it doesn't service us very well. So I have an idea. How about if we decide that we will let freight come into New York City at night? Now, at night, for those who don't know, New York City doesn't shut down, but about 1/3 of it runs about 1/3 the power of trains. So about 2/3 are not running anymore due to maintenance, other things like that. They just stop, people aren't on the trains anymore. So instead, throwing every other train will be a freight train. You might go, why does that matter, Larry? Here's why. Number one, if it's a freight train, that means freight comes into the city at night, less trucks on my streets, less wear and tear on my streets, less pollution in my streets. Number one. Number two, wait a minute, Larry, how can we get these freight trains in? They don't have the right tracks. Yes, you'll have to rebuild all the tracks. Larry, how will we do that? We will have the actual people who want to bring the freight trains in pay for them. Yes, so the Amazons of the world, the UPSs of the world, the FedEx of the world. Wait a minute, Larry, are you going to sponsor the trains? Yes, literally, I'm going to sponsor the train tracks. Yes, But Larry, that sounds horrible. I don't want sponsored by train tracks. Great. You're going to have a crappy system that serves no one, that keeps getting more expensive. That's everything's bad and you can't get built. We tried to build one extension in New York State, in New York City, the Second Avenue line. It took 15 years. I'm not joking. 15 years. Instead, you simply say Amazon, FedEx, whatever, put together a holding company, put your billions of dollars in it, rebuild. They will do it in 2 years. That's how it works. It'll be done in 2 years. We will have a new system that'll bring new stuff in within 2 years. Just like that. Only if the governor supports them and backs them and says, walk away, just do it. That's the issue. Now you might go, but Larry, it could cost $2, $3, $4 billion. Amazon's marketing budget for 1 year is $10 billion. Corporations, I know people, corporations are evil. They are not evil. They are apathetic. They don't care at all. If it happens to kill people, good. If it doesn't kill people, good. They don't care. So since I understand they're apathetic versus evil, I will simply give them a good incentive to do the right thing by making them make money on it. And because they make money on it, it will then work. That's how they will do it. I get them to do that. All of a sudden now, you'll see a new system that will be cheaper, no extra dollars. See, Mike knows. The 2 train lines still not finished. Yes, 15 years, still not done. Absolutely, still not completed.
I find it fascinating that in 1 year, China can build a bridge, and we're still in Chicago. There's so many construction projects happening here.
Yes,
it's like I remember getting out of the Marine Corps in 2008, seeing construction projects, and still nothing being done. Like they're still building this damn building. They're still building this road. They're still updating the CTA, and we get nothing here. It's depressingly familiar, and it almost makes me want to hit my head against a brick wall. But now, when we also look at the aspect of working class citizens in New York State, there is also a lot of apprehension towards corporations, because we're seeing
100%.
While there is a difference. Indiana, they recently had, or at least people in Indianapolis had a huge win against stopping Google from a data center being built in their area that would consume about 1 million gallons of water and also bring out state dangerous and chemical outputs, of course. But when it comes down to standing up to corporations, there is a policy of what are some of the things that you're prepared to do, because while you in a scenario in which you could win the governorship, you still have a state and Senate legislator that, unfortunately, while it's not any better, there's always the issue of money in politics and a lobby group buying off the groups in the state legislature. So how do we handle that, especially when it comes down to New York State that has a long, sad track record, very similar to Illinois, of corruption and people being bought off and being told to turn the other way?
You're not wrong. This is not an easy thing to achieve. You're right. The issue is I will never, and people shouldn't, but they do, but I will never measure my ideas against perfection. I will always lose. No ideas are perfect. I measure my ideas against status quo. The status quo is horrible and terrible and failing. My ideas are better. Now you might go, wait a minute, Larry, but I have a better idea. Good. Get me on a debate stage and we'll talk about it. You see me, I will change my mind. You've seen me do it, Kit. If you've got a better idea, I will go, okay, let's do it. But here's my problem in New York State. There are no ideas. So if you don't like my ideas, give me another one. If you don't have another one, you can shut up. That is my opinion. Give me an idea. We'll talk about it. If you don't like that, you can be quiet. I don't care. Talk your trash. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because things are not happening in New York State. So now, how do we fix the issue you talked about? All right. Number one, I need about 10 people in the Senate to control the Senate. So my goal has to be, because I'll control it via swing state, via the swing vote. I need about 10 people, give or take, maybe 7. If I can get 7 to 10 people in the Senate, I can control the Senate, and that's how I get things done. If not, you're right. It's gonna be a problem. I will have to use executive orders and things like that, which I can't stand. I will have to punish the people in the Senate by literally going to their areas and literally trying my best to get them removed. Literally if they make me a lame duck governor, I will have to literally go to I'll spend all my time in their districts getting rid of their leadership. It's the only way I can do it. There's no other way that I can make that happen. It will be challenging. But I also said something else. Right now, the governor has 2 choppers, 2 helicopters. I will get rid of one of them, right, and sell it, and instead deck out a bus, and then I will run the government out of a bus, and that bus will travel across the state. Remember, if I win this thing, and I hope I do, obviously. I mean, look, Jesse Ventura won in 96. Maybe every 30 years is when lightning strikes twice. I hope that's true. If I win this thing, I will have a mandate. by default, right? If I actually win this thing, if an independent actually wins New York State, that means the independent has a mandate. That's how it works, or he doesn't win, or she doesn't win. So if that does happen, I will travel the entire state, running the government out of the bus to stay with the people, so I will retain that mandate. There's no other way I can get that mandate. So that's the first piece there. But I want to keep going on this piece, which is I can't be corrupt yet. I don't have enough connections yet. Give me 4 years, then I'll be corrupt.
Those are not good words to really put out.
There we go. Then throw me out in 4 years. But I can't be yet. I don't have enough connections to be corrupt yet. You got to give me some time before I can be corrupt. And even if I was corrupt in 4 years, I'd still be less corrupt than the guys now. So you probably still will vote for me in the next 4 years. After 8 years, I'm probably gone. You probably get rid of me then. I'll probably be corrupt at that point. We'll see. That's how it works. I'm just human, brother.
Right. But you know, when we have a state like New York, where again the office of governorship seems to be the end all be all spot, there is also a growing rage and anger towards politicians and politics. To quote Misty Winston, you know, electoral politics. Hey, people are going to say, hey, you're wasting your time. You shouldn't get involved. And then top of that, too, we're seeing a lot of establishment politicians fail miserably right now, especially the Democrats, in regards to maintaining their brand. So if there's ever a point in time to where an independent can actually shake things up, even in a state that's draconian towards third parties and independents, this is a golden opportunity. And I just want to bring things to my state, for example. For example, you have Governor J.B. Pritzker, who is slated to be potentially, and at least allegedly, maybe one of the 2028 contenders for the 2028 Democrat primary run. And then, of course, you have Mayor, not 6.6%, but Mayor 5%, Mayor Brandon Johnson. And both of them seem to be going head-to-head against the Trump administration. So let's just address this big Republican elephant in the room, a.k.a. Orange Man Bad.
Yep.
How are you, in a potential scenario, going to be handling the Trump administration? Because already Trump has, especially in the aftermath of D.C., has indicated, or said that, hey, I succeeded here in stopping crime and getting illegal immigrants off the streets. And Chicago seems to be his first. He wants to make Chicago the next target. And we're seeing ICE raids happening here in the city. New York City has also, in some ways and forms, adopted itself as a sanctuary city. Perhaps not as heavily as our Chicago politicians did. Again, it could be back and forth and who was screaming the loudest for virtue signal points. But how are you going to address a potential Trump administration, dare I say it, calling ICE and maybe the National Guard to patrol the streets of New York, New York?
Well, there'll be a couple of advantages. Again, assuming that I win this thing, number one, I won't be a Democrat. And because I won't be a Democrat, it means I won't be as big as a target as other Democrats are. So that's one advantage. I'll be less of a target. So not that he wouldn't still target me, but I'll be less of a target than others. That's number one. Number two, and Democrats will be attacking me left and right in New York State because they'll want their power back. So I'll be much more of a Democratic target than I will be a Republican target. So there's an advantage for that. Doesn't mean it's over. It just means it's better. Second piece, generally speaking, Trump is a deal maker. That's who he is. He wants to have a win. He wants people to say he won. If you can negotiate with him to say he's got to win, he tends to leave you alone. That's what he wants. He just wants a win. He wants people to go, see, look how awesome I am. I did the cool thing. What did he say? He stopped like 25 wars or whatever he said. I forgot. Whatever he said that he did, he wants to make sure he will do it. So that's the issue. So you'll see it'll be easier. As long as we make a deal, we'll be fine. Second piece is you want to fix the problems. In New York State, and particularly New York City, you want to solve immigration problems. You want to solve crime problems to where there's no reason for him to come and the people don't want him here. And even local people will say no, and it won't make any sense. And that's the key issue. If you start focusing on fixing things, you will see them to be no need for him to even bother coming here. How can we do that? Number one, immigration. That's one of the biggest issues here in New York State. What we have to do, New York State took in about 200,000 immigrants last year. That's a lot of immigrants to take in. I'm not against immigration. I'm not. I'm against immigration with no plan. That I'm against, because when you have immigration with no plan, poor neighborhoods suffer. And that's what we did.
And that's what happened in Chicago, too, especially in the South and West Side neighborhoods when we had Jamal Green on the show, as well as Nick Thompson on our Friday evening show.
Absolutely. That's what happens. You have to have a plan or don't take them in, right? It's not because I don't want immigrants. I don't want them without a plan. 200,000 immigrants. Here's the second piece. People say, well, Larry, most of them are good. 99% of them are good. I agree. 99% are good. Fine. Great. But that's still 1% that are bad, which means I just put 2,000 gangbangers in my city. If I took in 200,000, I put 2,000 bad guys in my city. That's a problem that we had no plan for. Again, no plan for at all. If you have a plan, you can take them in. If you don't have a plan, you can't. My plan is the same plan I've had for literally years. Mm-hmm. You put a privately funded Ellis Island, 1 or 2 or 3 of them, I think on the border if you're federal. If not, you put them here in New York City. I think the Bronx, as an example, I love that idea. You put them in the Bronx. If you put them in, you put one in the Bronx, maybe one in Brooklyn. Why those 2 places? Because those are some diverse boroughs. Also Queens, good diverse borough. You have diverse boroughs. Diverse boroughs means you have a local population that can be hired to come in and help these things. That's the critical aspect. You have a local population that will get jobs. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by privatized? Let me explain. Literally run, the land is leased to these companies, literally run by recruiting companies. I'm not joking. What do recruiting companies do throughout the entire world right now? They vet people and move them around, and all of a sudden there's not murderers everywhere. It's what they do professionally. But Larry, how will they make money? Easy. They'll make money the same way that they do it now. They get paid by recruiting people. It's a current business model. But Larry, what about the people who don't have any money? Well, first off, half of them are working anyway, so they can pay to get themselves legal. Not just that. People who are coming in don't pay the coyote, pay the company. They come in, we follow the rules of the federal government, and we then legalize people and document them legally and get them in. But Larry, there are bad guys. The bad guys won't go there because they'll be vetted. What does that mean? The current system that we have now, without adding anybody else, without adding extra ICE raids, without adding extra cops, can now deal with the bad guys that are in the city. Mm-hmm. Good Pablo doesn't want bad Pablo in his neighborhood. Good Pablo wants to work and keep his family and do all those good things. Now, the sad part is if Good Pablo is going to be arrested by ICE, Good Pablo doesn't tell people where bad Pablo is. But if Good Pablo is documented and he won't go to jail, he tells the cops where bad Pablo is.
Well, no one wants to say it's Trey or do anything of that nature. I think what the concern is though with the actions, especially what's happening here in Chicago, is overall ICE has a hammer in its hand and everything looks like a nail. And while Brandon Johnson, J.B. Pritzker are failing miserably, especially in regards to having a sit down with Trump, because that's why things have been getting out of control with the protesters, with ICE gassing and firing firing into the crowds, or even Chicago police officers getting gas as well, or use it at random civilians who are not illegal immigrants, or use it at journalists also being detained. There was a recent video that came out with which are being detained, because the thing is, if everything's a nail, ICE has a hammer in its hand, there has to be some sort of rollback, and there has to be communication. Yes, I understand people are triggered by Trump, but the thing is, there has to be a communication of, you're not just doing this just because we have federal authority. I think that's the issue. I think every libertarian, independent, green, socialist, and dare I say it, Democrat and Republican would agree, federal oversight going into sovereign independent states and cities is a huge overreach, and we really have to. There has to be like if there are going to be operations, which I don't want to see happen. Period. Bounds of limitation. You just can't have Black Hawk helicopters just going into a middle of the night in a South Side neighborhood and just saying, "All right, wheel in there, let's go get them." Like the bounds of reason. No, this is a local issue. We don't need federal oversight, because if there's too much federal oversight, then that's never going to get rolled back.
No, I'm with you. I'm literally saying this is how we get them out of our city, right? That's how you get them out. Otherwise, what do? You just virtue signal. What has driven me crazy, and I see it all the time, is people go, "This is evil. This is wrong." Yeah, but does it solve the problem? No, but I said it's evil. But I've said it's wrong. I've said it's bad. I don't give a shit. It's just you virtue signaling. Has Pritzker stopped it? No. Has anyone stopped it? No. Solve the problem, and then they go away. What I don't want, I get a little upset sometimes because I hear people constantly say, well, you have to say the thing. You have to call it out. You have to do that's virtue signaling that does not solve the problem. What I want to do is solve the problem so that it doesn't matter anymore. I want to actually take action and fix something. I don't want to just virtue signal. And the problem is when people get on that, well, see, we're winning. We're standing up. We're fighting. No, you're not. The elites are acting like they care about you with stupid words. You're falling for it because he's on my side because he said the right words. But nothing's changed, and ICE is still in your city. I can get them out of the city. I can solve the actual problem. I can fix it where people are actually documented and paying their taxes they should be, and the bad guys start leaving. I can do that. Maybe I can't virtue signal as well as some. Maybe not. But if you want virtue signaling, don't talk to me. You're already getting it. It's everywhere. If virtue signaling is what you got, Pritzker's doing it great. So's Newsom. So's Stephen Miller. He virtue signals to his people. Of course they are. Virtue signaling's everywhere. Enjoy. What you need me for? You don't.
So then in many ways then though, when it comes down to talking to Trump, dealing with this administration, because again, there's 2026, and you got 2027, you got 2028. So whoever will be the new governor, be it you or whoever other contenders are going to be in the race, is going to have to address this administration. Because once Trump is done with Chicago, however which way form that can happen, because there's already talk about lawfare and everything else of that nature, and there's talk about how long these operations will last. I think it's perhaps beneficial, that no other major metropolitan city at least choose the pathway that Chicago has chosen, because New York City and New York State as a whole, shouldn't really be wanting this. I mean, we really want to make sure that people are going to be safe. Yes, there are, again, the whole idea of the sanctuary city is that there would, especially in Chicago and New York City as well, is that there was no plan. And when you have no plan, people are going to be abused. And that is a very difficult conversation, which a lot of people who are in support of sanctuary cities are going to have to come to terms with. There was never a plan to take care of the people. And there was also the I guess the ignorance in thinking that either Biden and then later on by proxy that Kamala was going to win in 2024, which did not happen at all. Trump got in, and now everything else, as people say, is history. So I think what I just wanted to address here for one more aspect, a Larry Sharpe administration, a libertarian administration in which, libertarians are known for, right? Government, stay the hell out of my backyard, which I at this point, I can agree with that. I say that as somebody who's politically homeless on the left. How do we have a real sit down with Trump, or either that one of his people, so that New York City does not make the same mistakes as my city is going through right now? Because I fear that Chicago will be a war zone, and while it's just getting started, people are showing the nice parts of the city. Eventually this is like the beginning of a storm where things will not be calm just because it's winter.
No, as I keep saying, the problems have to be solved. That's the issue. If you don't solve the problems, look, Trump puts troops in DC. That looks great. If you're a right winger, that looks amazing. Troops in the city and crime is down. Awesome. Yay, that's wonderful. Then he takes troops out. Did he change anything? Was anything repaired? No. Is he planning to keep troops there forever? Maybe. But then that's also virtue signaling. You're now going to police state your entire city? I hope not. This is the thing we don't want to do. You have to fix the problems. If you fix the problems, the rest go away. Remember something. Bullies go to what's easiest. They bully what's easiest to be bullied, right? So if you've got a bad city where they can... What does every political party want to do more than anything else? Act like they're doing something great. Act like they're solving things. Act like they're awesome and they're beating the other. That's the most important thing. Right. See, I'm a great political party because I'm beating the other. If we make that happen, then they're happy. Okay, get them away so it doesn't work anymore. They'll stop doing it. They do what actually works for them. If the city is better, they won't go after it. That's the issue. If it doesn't make sense for them politically, they won't go after it. That's how it works.
So now, especially now as governor or as running for governor, looking at your policies, and it's, you said you're for citizen ballot initiatives, and in some ways you're for people, you public banks, you have, a whole idea of a trust. And when it comes down to at least doing worker projects or trying to revitalize the state, there's that to bring in as well. But let's look at the other issue, and that is one day, there's not going to be a Larry Sharpe, just like one day there won't be a Kit Cabello.
Yep.
But when it comes down to the political infrastructure of New York State, it's very clear that third parties and independents people are more identifying with that kind of infrastructure. As a governor, and again, there's only so much as a governor can do because you have to count in with the state senators and state house representatives. Will there be any kind of policy in which you will be fighting for to ensure that the next wave of independents, because the next wave of third-party candidates can get in? Because, and I want to add this little caveat here, and I think you and Jose can definitely laugh at this. I know I'm laughing at it. When you have Eric Adams and Chris Cuomo running as independents, air quote, they're having the time of their lives, where in comparison, anyone else that I've interviewed, not only just from New York State, but from Illinois and outside those two states, and I've done this now for 8 years, it's always been a tooth and nail, toe-to-toe slug match just to even get on the ballot, just to get on the debate stage. What do you have any policies that will make sure that third parties and independents will be in support of that? And would you support a citizen ballot initiative that is calling for the abolition of all political parties? Got to give you a shout out there, Roger Meadows.
Yeah, no worries. Let me do a couple things. The first piece is there's about 500,000 New Yorkers, give or take, who always vote the FU vote. They're the people who vote against the other two, right? So once I get on the ballot, I will be able to have 2 political parties on the ballot that will stay on the ballot for the next at least 2 cycles. Once that happens, when you have 2 more political parties that are in the cycle, now we have actual power to make changes, right? Now it becomes normal and okay when that begins to happen, number one. Number two, if I actually come in second even, not just first, but second, New York state law says that the top 2 parties control the Board of Elections. So whatever party that comes in second, it will be the Democrats and me controlling all of that. Republicans will be kicked out. Now, they would never accept that. They'll rewrite the rules. When they rewrite those rules will include multiple parties and ability to get in the party. So if I come in second, by default, I fix that. Does that make sense? If I come in second, it'll be fixed by default. Let's say I don't come in second, I don't win. I come in third. Again, we are pushing forward 2 political parties. And in the future, as we grow, things will have to get better. Let me explain why. In 2018, when I got ballot access to the Libertarian Party, in 2019, I crossed the state again, and we had 107 local victories. School board, city council, we had a DA, a bunch of victories across the state, 107 of those. With those 107 victories, we began to build grassroots. That's when they changed the rules, when they saw that. Well, now they've made the rules virtually impossible already. If I get past that, now whatever parties I get, they will begin to build grassroots. That is what will take over. If I actually win the governorship, of course, I wouldn't want to abolish political parties. I think that's against the Constitution. You cannot abolish political parties. What you can do, though, which was more important in my view, is twofold. Stop having the government support political parties. If you want to get together and make a political party, that's the First Amendment. You should be able to do so. But here's what you do to make it as good. Number one, you don't print political parties on ballots. That is literally the state supporting and promoting a political party. You simply put the name. So no political parties on ballots whatsoever. Number two, the government should not be paying for primaries. The government is paying for taxpayer dollars pay for primaries. Yet in New York State, primaries are closed. If the primaries are closed, I can't vote in a primary because I'm not a Democrat. So I don't get to vote in a primary, but I have to pay for it. Not just that, they're sponsored by the government. No. If you're going to say they're private companies, I accept that. They're private organizations. Federal governments have already said that. When Bernie sued the Democrats, when the Democrats screwed him over, they said, no. These parties are private organizations. We can't control them. Awesome. Then don't print them on a ballot and don't pay for primaries and let them pick the people they want. And there's one election day and names are on the ballot. And you get on the ballot by a simple process that everybody must do every single time. Whatever the process is, everybody must do it every single time. Parties don't matter. Nothing whatsoever. Parties do not matter. So I want to get in the ballot. I must do the thing that everyone else must do. And if the parties can't do it, then nobody can do it. Then no one's on the ballot, which would be silly, of course. So they'll figure it out. You do that, you can fix the same thing without having to, in my view, getting rid of political parties, period, goes against the Constitution. So keep political parties, but just do not have the government support them in any way.
There's also a full separation between money and politics. It's like there's a separation at least between church and state, but money and politics, church and state, who knows? I mean, it's always all interconnected.
You can solve the money and politics piece very easily.
How?
A lot of people think that libertarians are corporatist. That's ignorant people. It's not true. Libertarian in a perfect libertarian magical world, there's no corporation because there's no government. So there are no corporations. It's individual people voluntarily doing things with other people voluntarily. That's the magic libertarian world. The way you solve it. Sadly, our Supreme Court has decided that corporations are people. And it's an embarrassment for us, but it's done. We're not going to change that. I wish we could. Instead, here's what you do. Somebody pass a law that says you may donate money or spend money on a politician, on a political issue, if you are eligible to vote. That's it. That's it. You can spend money if you are eligible to vote. Now, companies can't vote. Companies can't give. Unions can't vote. Unions can't give. PACs can't vote. PACs can't give. You just destroyed it all, and now it has to be individuals giving money. Now, some people say, well, wait a minute. Then the billionaires will run everything. Okay, first off, they run it now. So that's a thing. I don't know why people would even say that, but they do. Billionaires run it. They do run it now. And how do they run it? They run it through organizations. When physical billionaires write a check to somebody, we don't like it. It makes us upset. How do I know? Ask President Bloomberg. Oh, wait, you can't because he didn't win. So yes, when we actually know that, hey, this is the one guy writing the check, we don't like it. So we vote against them. So don't hide behind any corporations. Don't hide behind anything. Make everything totally and absolutely transparent. And if you are not eligible to vote, you may not spend money on a campaign. You may not give to a campaign. Problem solved. Am I making sense at least, Kit? Am I at least making sense to you?
No, I understand. I think just the one thing that has really doing this now for 8 years, Jesus Christ, in the trenches. I can't predict the future, what's going to be happening all along when regards it comes down to the future of free speech, especially in the online sphere and what's happening now, especially in my city, and what we're seeing in regards for corporations and their influence, because we're seeing how the game is played and the influence of corporations, lobby groups influencing not only federal politicians, but we see it happening at the state level. And I think when it comes down to third parties, it's viewed as a breath of fresh air, at least for the time being. And to be clear here, there have been moments in which third parties have had the momentum and lost it. In Illinois in 2010, the Illinois Green Party was viewed as a legit establishment party here, like not establishment, but they were established, and then they lost it. And since then, it's been a fight for the Illinois Greens to kind of get back to where they were at. For you running as an independent, and potentially there's that potential, because again, we after seeing what happened with Mendani, I am not going to dismiss the fact that New Yorkers would want something different, especially with your current governor. So looking at this bigger picture here is the legacy of keeping a third party relevant, be it libertarian, be it green, be it socialist, for your actions. What kind of safeguards are you trying to do to at least put that down there for the groundwork? You have to start. Look, obviously, I hope I win, and I don't want to jinx myself. It does happen every 30 years or so. Maybe I will. But whether I win or not, the goal is to have multiple third parties, multiple independent parties in New York State. When that happens, then people will start running locally. When people start winning locally, that's when they start to have actual power. The future is not in Larry Sharpe running for governor for a fourth time. That's not, I mean, don't punish me. I'll make you run instead. Anyway, that's not the future. The future is a whole bunch of people running. As I said in 2018, and it did work until they destroyed it, obviously, which was, I will break a hole. You have to follow me through. So I will break a hole. People will follow me through. The future is other people running. They will run under the We the People Party. They will run under the Libertarian Party. They will run locally and change things locally. That's the legacy. That's the issue. I think that's something I can at least agree with. Yes, because I will be following this election. And it's quite clear that I would love to have you back on, because your announcement on Kim Iverson show, as well as I want to give a huge shout out to that Liberty lady, as well as Michael Voss, for reaching out to me to have you on this program, because I've been feeling a little bit jaded towards local politics covering electoral politics because of overall just how the rhythm and rhyme of things being repeated over and over again. But again,
Yes.
I have that soft spot for third parties and independents, and as a fellow contributor in the independent media sphere and somebody who knows what it's like to be censored and suppressed.
Yep.
Or dealing with ridiculous terminations or shadow banning for content creation. I understand where you're coming for free speech, and that's why I wanted.
Well, let me touch an important piece here.
Go ahead.
And that is, we don't, but we should really be supporting each other in the independent world, even when we disagree. Let me explain why. The only people who are actually trying to make change, any change at all, is all third party, all independent party. The only anti-war in the country is third party. The only changing the medical situation here, the healthcare situation, is third party. We're the only ones trying to make any change whatsoever. Why do you think when Cornel West was trying to get in the ballot in North Carolina, I was supporting him? Why do you think I put Cornel West, RFK Jr. on a debate stage in the Libertarian Party of California? Because I know that we should be working together to break a hole. That's the critical piece. If we don't break a hole in duopoly, if we don't break the plutocracy, we all lose. And we're sitting here fighting amongst each other. Oh, Green Party guy. Now, a lot of people who in the Green Party don't like Howie Hawkins because of the issues they had within the Green Party. But yes. I'm outside the Green Party, so I don't know that. All I know is Howie Hawkins is the Green Party guy. I've had him on my show. I've supported him. I've been in debates with him. I've been in court with him. I was in court with Jill Stein. I stayed in court with these people because that's what matters. Independence is what matters, and we have to fight that. If we don't, we're all going to lose. Mm-hmm. So that's why you see me jump up and down and help others who Greens and I don't get along. They hate nuclear power. I like nuclear power. They hate nuclear power. And I'm on board still. Let's get them on. I'd rather have a Green win an election, even though I disagree on nuclear power, than have a same Republican and Democrat win. I accept that trade-off. I accept it.
Now, I do want to address this here as well, and that is when it comes down to the future of free speech, because there is the worry, and this is the worry I've been getting too, where there's going to be more crackdowns. The unfortunate and regrettable assassination of Charlie Kirk, as well as the aftermath of the 8 years of the cancel culture wars, which way you want to call it, the cancel culture wave. A lot of people lost their livelihoods because of a tweet that was taken way out of context, or either that maybe somebody just doesn't like content creation. At the state level, do you have any policies that will protect, independent media, commentators, and ensure that we're not dealing with this knee-jerk reaction of censor and suppression? Because now more than ever, I fear, and this is something I shared with Michael, this is something I shared with you and a few other people in independent media, we need to, I'm not saying we need to form a coalition, but at least an alliance of sorts to ensure that YouTube or any other social media platform won't throttle us, or internet companies won't throttle us, because I had this whole show set up and automatically hit again. And a few weeks ago, I had about 200 people tuning in who were there, but YouTube was saying that there were 0 people watching the live stream. And that was a hell of a story altogether. So where do you stand in this? Do you have any policies for protections for people, especially who will be in the independent media sphere, and is it at social media protection?
Yeah, the reality is at the state level, there isn't much you can do. Most of that's going to be federal, to be very forward with you. Okay. What you can do at the state level is actually support independent media, as I do. Talk about how important it is, as I do. Support them when it comes to legal issues, as I do, right? We have to use, in America, we pay attention to executives. What I mean by that, we pay attention to mayors, governors, presidents, vice presidents, lieutenant. We pay attention to executives far more than we do people in the Congress, in the assemblies. We just do. So when you're a governor, people pay attention to you. What does that mean? Support them, fight them, raise money for the people like you who are being sued, right? Do that kind of thing. Support people so that you can win. You start doing that, you start setting precedent. What courts care about more than anything is precedent. More than anything. You start setting the right precedent, you will change things.
Mm-hmm. All right, and I think that's a fair enough assessment here. And I do have your campaign website here as well for anyone who wants to join in and support Larry Sharpe. You know, looking at your policies, I definitely want to have you back on again because this is like a perfect introduction, but I want to have you back on for another Sunday show because we're talking about criminal justice reform, we're talking about homelessness and mental health, and I think the perfect set because I got two final questions I do want to address about homelessness and mental health in New York City. It's really it's an issue here in Chicago. Where the mental health clinics were shut down. And yes, there is a homelessness crisis here. Let's just address that in New York City, your policies on that.
Yeah, there are several problems we have with homelessness. And one of the things I want to bring up is we in New York City and across the country, but particularly New York City, we don't solve problems. We create an industrial complex. Mm-hmm. So at first we had a homelessness problem heavily exacerbated from the lockdowns. And when that happened, what did we do? Did we solve the problem? No. They said, well, we'll just start giving money to the hotels to keep these people there. That was the answer, right? So now we start shoving people into the hotels. The state government starts paying money to the hotels to keep them there. And that was their Band-Aid, and people started making money. Not just that, when the people started losing their commercial properties, the black market popped up where people started paying people who were landlords and giving them money to live in places they shouldn't live in just so they can get their rents paid. That started happening too. And the government looked away and went, well, that's fine. We'll walk away. That part was what happened. Well, then all of a sudden the migrants come. What happens to migrants? Well, the migrants, that's federal money and more money. So they threw the homeless people out and put the migrants in so they could take federal funds instead. And they made another industrial complex there. Mm-hmm. So how do you fix the homeless issue? Several pieces. Number one, a chunk of people who are homeless are either addicts or are people who are have mental illness. But that's not most. The problem is the ones we see, the ones we on the news, are the people who are having some form of, problem or issue or harming people. And those people exist. I'm not taking it away. But a lot of people who are homeless are families, individuals. A lot of people who are homeless are in that world. They aren't the person who is the addict or the person who has a mental illness issue. So to keep that piece in mind, what I want us to do is to be able to support actual places in New York City and other cities that are community-based, similar to what they have. It was called Jericho Project in the Bronx, which is a community-based place, which is for veterans. Maybe you have it for veterans. Maybe you have it for single moms. Maybe you have it for people who are schizophrenic, whatever the case may be. But you have it in those issues so that people can go there, get the help they need, and be able to stay. Now, in those places, they have very simple rules. Rules like all you have to do is provide the amount of money you make per year. That's it. Tell them what you make, whatever that is, and you announce it. And your rent is, as for example, 1/3 of whatever you make. It doesn't matter what you make. If you make $0, $0. If you make $1, 33 cents. Whatever money you make, it's 1/3. That's how it's fun. So you pay something, whatever you make. So you do pay rent. So you are not homeless. It's not a shelter. You pay, but you pay whatever, 25%, whatever it is. You just pay a fee of whatever you make. That keeps people in thinking I'm part of the system. It keeps them going. You allow it to be a tiny place, which in New York City you can't. Why tiny? Many people who've been homeless for a long time, they become accustomed to being homeless, and they actually don't want to have a large home. They have a psychological issue. They don't want it. So you give them a smaller place. You allow them to have a smaller place in New York City so they can actually begin to have a place. And the next piece is these places all have community centers, community areas. People can begin to kind of get back into community. Many of them have lost the ability to get back into the communities anymore. They don't know how to do it. Once you're in, I forgot how long, I think it's like 3 years. I'm not sure. I think it's 3 years. So once someone's out on the streets for X number of years, they actually don't want to come back. They don't want to come back. So we have to make it to where they want to come back. That's piece number one. Piece number two, we've got to be able to have better housing. 2 ways we can do that. Number one thing we can do is do what they do in Houston, which is stop all of the hold on. I've lost my thought.
It's all good. It's all good.
Hold on. No. I had 80,000 things in my head. There's so many ways of fixing homelessness. I got to deal with them all. But you want to stop zoning. Stop zoning. There's no zoning in Texas. Houston is a big city. I think it's our 4th or 5th largest city. And what happens? They don't have anywhere near the homelessness problem that we have. They don't have near the problem that we have. So we end zoning, let people build, let them build more smaller homes that will let more people have access to these homes. Not just that. Go out of your way to try to make more rent-to-own public housing. Rent-to-own public housing gives people the opportunity of ownership if they want it, right? Opportunity to have ownership if they want it. We start doing that, more people. This is the family side, not the person who has a mental illness. More of them will want to start ownership. Smaller homes, having ownership, shifting things open. You will see that get better also. Last piece, I talk about my carrying caboose. My carrying caboose concept is when people are having an episode, whether it's an addiction episode, whether it's a mental breakdown, whatever it might be, you will find that they will often go to places where people congregate, like bus stations, like subway stations, things like that. Every other train, the last train, should be a place where people can go who are in trouble. Whether that's a mental illness trouble, whether that's an addiction trouble, they can go there to get help. We start making that, people can go there, and we can stop just arresting people. Otherwise, what we have right now is either arresting people or letting someone having a bad episode harm somebody. I don't want that. We can fix that. Now, I give you like 4 different things. Again, if you say to yourself, wait a minute, Larry, I don't like idea A or idea B, I'll ask the same question. What is your answer? If your answer is more funding, that's a useless answer. We've been more funding for 30 years. We've been raising funding for 30 years. Doesn't change anything. If we don't change how this system works, we're not going to fix the homelessness problem. That's the issue.
I also want to bring up something else here, too. This is from Roger Meadows. Kit, Larry, forgot to tell you, New York State governor is the most powerful in the country. The executive has the power to pursue, not the legislature. He can get things done through executive budget. Tell him through the budget process. While we got time, very short cliff notes about the budget process, just real quick. And then, I'll ask where people can follow you on social media.
Well, look, the reality of it is, the budget is a key issue. And I'll go to New York City on this one. What most people don't know is in New York City is the only major city in the country that covers more than one county. Every other city is only in one county, right? Chicago's what? Cook County, right? Is that right?
Yep, Cook County.
Yeah, Cook County.
Only
Yeah,
one.
so it's just Los Angeles and Los Angeles County, right? Each one's in that county. That's it, right? New York City's in multiple counties. Why does that matter? That means the governor has more control because it's a multi-county city. Not just that, the president has control because New York City goes across, its infrastructure goes into other states. Excuse me. That's why Trump has some control over things like congestion pricing and such. So that is a big issue. The mayor doesn't have as much control. So the governor has more control, which is better in the case if you're going to be running for governor. The budget does matter because the executive budget, the budgets right now, the way they do it in New York State, and I'm not happy about this. We hardly ever pass laws anymore. We just pass stuff in the budget. The budget becomes the law. So if we fund the thing exists. And I think that's what Roger means. So you can create things by just creating a budget for it, which again, I don't know if it's even constitutional, but it is how it works, right? What we do is we go, well, I want this thing. Oh, okay, great. Let's put money for it in the budget. Oh, we've okayed the budget. Great. Now it's now a thing. I think that's what he means. You can make things happen through budgetary issues.
Mm-hmm. All right. So as a final note, Larry, this is your campaign website. Are there any kind of events or organizations or other things in which people can go to follow you online, to share your stuff on social media? Like what's right now currently happening right now?
Way. I will go any place all the time. You see, I come on your show. I don't care where it is. I go wherever I need to go. I think the independent movement is critical. We have to make sure that we are looking forward to helping each other move this forward. I go to every single county in New York State every single year, all 62, and I'll be traveling again this next week. I'll be leaving Friday. I'll be in Fulton County, Hamilton County, Warren County, Clinton County, St. Lawrence County, and I'll be doing cookout also. So I will be all over the place. If you guys want to see me, come out. Go to any of my social media sites, whether it's Facebook, X, YouTube, doesn't matter, wherever it is, and you will see a list of where I'll be this weekend. And I go every single weekend. You'll see me out someplace. Come meet me. I only support local places. I'll be in a local diner, a local gun shop. I'll be in a local vape shop. I'll be in a local hemp store. Doesn't matter. Any place that's local that will have me, I will show up. Come there. All I ask is one thing. If it's a place like a diner or something, buy a cup of coffee or, buy a soda, buy something to support local guy. And if you can't afford it, buy a meal. That's all I ask. You don't have to pay any money to come see me. Come talk to me. I'm usually there for about an hour and a half. I talk to anybody who shows up. We just have a chat. Sometimes I get 2-3 people. Sometimes get 35, 45 people. All depends who shows up. I take whoever shows up. We have a conversation.
Absolutely. And Larry, again, thank you so much to you and your team for your patience. I want to reiterate again, one more final note on this. Everything was set and ready. I cannot explain for the actions for Rumble right now, which this interview will be live, will be recorded and uploaded as soon as possible. But when it comes down to covering candidates, Larry, you are very familiar when you get the jackboot of censorship as well as hard media. Sometimes a weird internet delay happens even when you pay your bills and everything is in the up and up and you do a double check and a triple check. So when we deal with this stuff, both Larry and I are both Marines, and is always adapt, overcome, but get the mission done regardless. And I do hope that you will be able to at least gain ground for this election cycle and that you are able to make a huge impact in the 2026 governor's race in New York State. And I invite you again to be back on my show because I believe in giving a platform to third parties and independents. And I also want to give a huge thank you to you as well, especially for last year and this year, for not only being a good friend and colleague, but for standing with me, especially as I am dealing with my own challenges. So as on a personal note, I really believe in what your message is, especially trying to bring in change. And I do hope that your campaign and team will continue to build ground and build a large coalition to, dare I say it, maybe make the establishment shake in their boots, which is what we want them to do in the first place.
Thank you, sir. Always good talking to you.
Always good. So, folks, we got music by Jesse Jet. As always, Heartlands Media, we are live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central on YouTube, Rumble, Kick, and X. I'll be fixing the Rumble issue. We will be able to at least get that situated. So we're going to have some music by Jesse Jet, and I think Jesse Jet's the greatest. So we're going to have Annette Nagad right there. Play it off on a high note. Thank you so much for joining us for this Sunday brunch. Larry, shout out to your team. Shout out to Michael. Shout out to that Liberty lady. And huge thank you for the moderators keeping the peace. Thank you to my Kick audience, my X audience, and my YouTube audience. Rumble people, Rumble will be uploaded, and we'll figure out just what the heck is going on there because I feel like knocking down some doors. So here's music by Jesse Jet. Larry, keep on having a great time and have a great Sunday morning.
Perfect time for you to burn the bridge to self-forgiveness. Now's the chance, take a stand, stay your hand before you cast another vote for corporate interest. Another vote that chokes your hopes of owning your own home or opening a business. They love to say their hands were tied, the stars just weren't aligned for them to get their votes in line to see their promises delivered. But they killed it in an instant. Bills don't die by accident, they're all assassinated on behalf of the congressionally kismet. By some lobbyists who see themselves as agents of clandestine fate, not fences in a prison. Dealing in the stolen goods of sleeping slaves and trading on the futures of their children. Betting on a spread of daily dead where every grave's creating profit by the millions. For some fascists lurking in the wings and all of their affiliates. And every Etna demigod our senators conduct their darkest dealings with. It really gets impossible to document or fingerprint, cause it isn't just a pattern of corruption, it's the very fabric making up the structure of the system that we're living in. So dash your hopes and down a margarita goes. You box the shadows, take a little nap, and then you get back in and swing again. But if the margarita made you sick, you probably wouldn't take a drink again. So if you're voting either party, honey, think again. I recommend you steel your nerves and never serve an officer, a president, a despot, or a king again. And mark my words, the day will come where we will rise and sing again. And if voting makes you sick, well, no one's forcing you to drink again. where you finally admit you weren't ignorant. You boldly voted Joe like an informed and blissful idiot. You chose to blur the parts of Biden you don't find the prettiest. Now you choose uplifting news and filter out the grittiest. But the truth is something coarse enough that even when it's hidden, it's apparent when you feel it on your fingertips. I know it's hard to deal with from a distance, and up close the truth is hideous. But there's just no getting rid of it. You've gotta let it enter. It just worries at your skin at every moment, loud or intimate. But shake it off, for fuck's sakes. You don't have to celebrate or be so proud of progress by imaginary increments. You don't have to heap such constant praise on fucking villains like their stillborn promises are honestly just isolated incidents and not the product of the principle of privilege. Not intentional eugenics just by any other synonym, covered up with desperate clusterfucks of rosy images, labeled plain by any other name except for what the fucking image is. So once you stare the page down enough, you'll spot the difference. That one is red and one is blue, and that's the only truth, because neither one delivers on that promise of deliverance. One is red and one is blue, and that's the only difference. And the rest are isolated and imaginary incidents.